We'll call to order the meeting of the Utilities Committee for Tuesday, April 29th. Madam Secretary, all members present with the exception of Councilman Turner. If everyone please rise for the invocation and pledge to be led by Mr. Randy Clua.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for sparing our local community from the bad weather that's been going on above us and to the east and the west. We ask that you pray for those families and those folks that have lost their homes and lost their loved ones. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Randy. Item number 3, Chair's addition. We don't have anything tonight. Public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the agenda can come up, sign in with the Secretary. When that item comes up, they'll be given 3 minutes. Item number 5 is approval of the minutes from the March 24th meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Sally, second by Councilman Clua. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Follow-up discussion on Lemmerville LCDBG state grant for sewage. Councilman Joseph and Mr. Brian Martinez.
Mr. Martinez have a update on it, some numbers.
Yeah, I put together, and I didn't get it in your package, but you should have gotten it earlier today or tonight. Yeah, it's the last thing in your package. And I put together kind of the project description and some numbers to begin building a database or information regarding the project itself. So I went through the plans that we have currently on file and kind of came up with the project details. It's that's listed in there: 10,700 linear feet of 8-inch PVC gravity, 24 manholes, 8,000 linear feet of 6-inch PVC force main, 800 feet of 3-inch PVC force main and tie-ins. It was the project itself. Per the grants department back, and I believe it was 2009 is when it was bid out. It was bid out and came back in at $1.8 million. The grant that they had at the time was for $600,000, which left the deficit of $1.2 million to do the project. We don't anticipate that to have changed a whole lot on the cost itself. So I put together some information on potential revenues and O&M costs to give us some sort of feeling of the return on investment, so to see where we kind of sit. So I used 2 different ways. One, I took the addresses, which in the next sheet I have a screenshot of, kind of shows you all the addresses, which includes there's several, probably 15 to 20 at least, new lots that are located on Lemmerville Cutoff Road. And so all the address points are potential customers, and that total of the address points was 212. I also did a report from our water system that's over there, and it was 91 customers in the Lemmerville route. And then taking the sewer rate to $42.50 gives you your monthly and annual revenues potential. And then the O&M number I came up with was based on looking at the utility costs for our other systems that we have. They range from $12,000 to $15,000, and that's with a treatment plant itself. So I'm anticipating, maybe on the high end, but $8,000 for utilities, major and minor maintenance that'll include replacing pumps, repairing pumps on lift stations. If it's a single phase, which I'm not sure if it's single or 3-phase out there, if it's single phase, then your pumps are going to be replaced a lot more often than if it was 3-phase. And then the treatment, based on our agreement with the city of Donaldsonville, is $1 per 1,000 gallons, and I took 300 gallons per house. DHH usually wants you to figure in 400. Reality is probably 200 to 250, so I kind of split it. And then use the numbers based on the 91 and 212 above, came up with the 2 treatment cost, and then the insurance that the parish divvies up for each of our systems that we have, sewer systems, is $12,500, and that's where I get the total O&M cost that you see in that 4th column. And then the annual return on investment or difference is just subtracted out from the potential revenues. That gives you that last column. And then I just pointed out that there's a deficit there that we have to keep in mind. So we have to pursue additional funding to continue with the project. To give you an idea, the $1.2 million, I added a note there that for 20 years, would be $66,000 a year to pay the loan down. But I would suggest us entertaining additional grant money. You know, I'll get with grants, and we'll keep it on the books and keep looking at it. And I'll keep giving you updates if we can come up with some other funding sources to help contribute to that. Maybe some of the tap fees and such from developments. And I'm currently working on kind of a master layout on all the projects or capital improvement projects for the whole parish for utilities. But there's a lot going on the West Bank, and I haven't quite finished putting that together. When I do, I'll bring that before the board as well and kind of show you kind of all the things we have kind of going on or potentially have in the books.
Questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Joseph?
No, I want to thank Brian for this update here and give you all a better picture of exactly what we're talking about in the area. And as he said, he have some more more projects in that area that going to contribute to some financial. And I would just like to let him pursue that, and when he get an update on that, to come back to the council and the utility, which come and give us an up-to-date and look at these numbers again. And like I say, we got a couple. We got a St. Jude's subdivision that we know we need to try to get them. They got 104 customers, but the infrastructure is already down. And we have the little commercial area with the park,
Sunshine Business Park.
Sunshine Business Park with 2 hotels and a couple other things going on in there. So if he can, I just request that we let Brian keep on working on that and then come back on a later date and give us an update on it.
Mr. Kluwat?
OJ, you got any ability to try to pick up the ones that are bordering in St. James Parish right there?
Right.
Anybody looked into that or what?
Well, Randy, currently right now, you asked a good question because we are,
That's a square, you know.
I know.
Bordered by the river and the two
yeah, well,
highways.
currently, we are, the parish and the city of Downsonville have some type of agreement that they are processing their sewage, and we supposed to get something out of that, and I think we are still working on that. I don't know what the cost is or nothing like that, but that is a possibility in there. But that's another thing that the utility department is trying to work out. They have, I don't think y'all have a confirmed answer on that yet, huh?
No, not just yet. I mean, initially, they were just paying us a conveyance fee to try to get some flow to the lift stations, which went to Donaldsonville treatment plant. We are working on some other issues that we have there, because what we don't want to do is to get to a point that we have so much flow coming from some projects there that it limits what we're trying to do at the Sunshine Business Park and some of those other things. So
Yeah.
we're going through that evaluation right now.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's part of my question as far as capacity of the plant and the system that the city has that we're using, you know, and then with the size pipe that you're talking about here, is this going to be capacity limited to any future growth along that area? Is there any room for growth? You know, I'm not sure where the business park ties into this, but if you got a 10-inch gravity main, or I'm sorry, 8-inch gravity main, and by the time you get all that to the first lift station, it's at capacity, and you got some upstream stuff that may need, or that's potentially looking to move in there, then your costs are going to be adjusted. The other thing that I think we need to try to do with this too, Brian, if you can figure it in, I see where you don't have salaries and all that kind of stuff in there, and so that's going to need to be figured in. It looks like we've got a little bit of a surplus in here that could handle debt service from what I'm seeing, if I'm looking at this correctly. But if you start throwing that in there, you know, that's going to quickly eat into that or even put it in a negative. So I appreciate the information as well. That's kind of along the lines where I'm looking at. Anybody got anything else? Okay, well, yeah, when you get some more information, let us know. We'll put it back on the agenda and we'll further along. You got something else, Ken?
No, we've just kind of.
Okay.
looking at some- And just one thing, I mean, this is assuming, I know that the percentage was the percentage on the SRF funding, okay? Which is, you know, we're not guaranteed that will be it.
Right.
There are other sources, but it's more. I mean, there's another source of funding, I think, but the interest rate is at 3.3 or 3.5. So, I mean,
Right.
that was just
Yeah.
an assumption, so, okay.
Right.
All right.
And it may behoove us to figure it at the higher interest rate. If it comes in lower, then we're in the green, right? Okay. Item number 7, update on 73 and 42 projects. Mr. Horner?
Yes, Chairman Johnson. On Highway 73, on LA 73, they're continuing to install their sewer, their gravity sewer lines and do their testings. Right now, they've run into a conflict with some utilities, so the new line that is being installed is on hold, but they're going back and taking this time to bore under the road and put some of the service lines, the lateral lines in and do their connections under the road, the future roadway, as well as go back and fix some of the pipe that had already been installed that had been identified as having air leaks during their pressure tests. And as soon as they get the power poles and maybe a signal pole relocated, then they'll be back on lane and are still on track for their completion in October. They've started working on the roadway as well, so.
Okay.
On LA 42, everything there, they've begun, as I think was reported last month, in clearing along the south side of the roadway. Since that time, they have formed and poured 2 lift station segments. What they're doing is they're installing their lift stations by pouring precast forming above ground, and then they're augering out and removing the material underneath it from inside and letting it sink down. That way they minimize the amount of disturbed area around and kind of do a caisson type of an installation. There are 3 lift stations. Each one of those will have 3 of those sections that are poured and lowered. Right now, they've poured 2 of those. The third one, when they went to locate it, they encountered fiber optic, then the line that they're having relocated. So that's on hold, but they're continuing to lower the 2 that they already have poured. Once those get at grade, then they come back and do another section, and they'll do 3 on each lift station. And with that, everything on that is still on time frame for their 300-day completion.
Okay. Questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Bob. Item number 8 is update on the cartograph, Utilities Department. Mr. You got something?
Yeah, just to kind of, Mr. Chairman, just to update you, what we were trying to do with Cartograph, there was an investment that was made in a system that would track work orders. It would be able to allow you to determine effectiveness, costs, for different work orders, and then allow you to do evaluation on the kind of things that's going on in the parish. There's a new system that was developed. It's a new OMS system, and it was an upgrade from the old system. The goal, talking with our technology department, was to move into using it into 2 areas where we were just starting, because they didn't have a lot of data, past data in that would have to be converted to move forward. One department that was decided was our new utility department. And with that, because it is very effective and is working very well, I wanted Brian to give you kind of an update on how his department is using it and the advantages of having such a system available to us.
Okay.
Okay, so I put together a short, just screenshot PowerPoint presentation of kind of how we're going about implementing it, to give you an idea on what it can do and answer any questions, I guess. So like Ken said, it's called Cartograph OMS. The Utilities Department is the first department to be implementing it. So we're moving forward with that. And just an overview of the Cartograph system itself, it can be accessed through the internet, so therefore you can access your work orders and assets through your computer, through tablets and iPads, as well as your phone devices, and it's good for Android and Apple products. So any place you can connect to the internet, you can access and make work orders or retrieve data and assets. information from Cartograph OMS. The next screenshot is just an overview of that. It's called your dashboard, I believe is what they call it, but it's basically, they have gadgets, and you can add and move and tailor them to the person. So if it's a director, you can see certain types of data. If you're a supervisor, you can see certain types of data, and you can maneuver them around to kind of help with your daily workflow. They have things that show your graphs on where your work orders are and where your money's being spent, and it's just basically it's a good snapshot of where you're at on what you want to see depending on your position. So it's kind of the first screen when you open it up, where you're at and where you need to go to, so to speak. The home screen, if you would. The work itself is graphically laid out. When you make a work order, it's designed in two methods. One is task, and a second way is work orders. I know in the past, the parish has done work orders for everything, but the way the system's set up as a work order is a collection of tasks, so it may require multiple departments, and may require multiple people, and then multiple specific tasks to get a job done. Well, that's when you would do a work order. But on this screen, you can graphically identify all your work orders in the area. You can also add layers and start filtering out what type of work orders assigned to certain people, work order statuses. There's a lot of filtering or customizing you can do to show you the work orders that you want to see. And every time you change something on the screen, it stays with your login as well as your individual, as your position. So, for example, this is a screenshot of mine, the work orders. So currently for this screenshot, I just showed the water task and sewer task. So those are just a quick overview of all the tasks that we have in the utilities department that we have inputted right now. And the map aside to it can show you graphically where those work orders are located, and then the list below it will give you, you can customize that data on what you want to see related to that work order or task. The next slide is the Assets tab, and it allows us to show all the assets that you have in the parish. And you can, again, filter it out to ones that you want to see. In this case, I have the water and wastewater assets that I've been working on building that database, so we can see where our water lines are, where, graphically display it, as well as identify it in the field. If we want to know what side the water line's on, where's the closest valve, where's the closest hydrant, they can pull up on their iPad and zoom into our assets and then see, okay, well, the closest hydrant's over here, or valve, I'm going to go over here and do that. I'm in the process of still incorporating a lot of that in GIS currently, so we're in the process of implementing it as well as building it. So the water lines I have all in the system. A lot of the sewer plants, I'm going back and putting in all the pump information, and the valves and the hydrants. Those are things I haven't finished yet, but I'm working on getting. In the end, all of our assets, especially the ones that require maintenance or continuous work, are going to be in the Cartograph system. All right, so an example of one that I had implemented starting, one of the issues we had with HUD1 was, we had many, but one of which is where are the water meters and who do they go to? So I started with one street, which is, this one happens to be Preston Lane. I wanted to use this one as an example, and so we went and graphically identified where the meters are in reference to the house. So now when we issue a work order, we issue it off of that exact meter. There's no question on which meter it is, which house it goes to. It's displayed graphically so you can make a work order off of that exact meter when the caller is calling in. The asset itself, if you go to the next slide, the asset itself is, there's a lot of details that's associated with the assets. And I did this slide to show you, as we're setting it up, we're taking a picture of the house, we're taking a picture of the meter, and it's graphically located with their iPad with GPS, and they can pinpoint exactly where the meter is, as well as fill in all the information, the meter number, when they do work orders. So at any time, we can come back to this meter and look at the history of it as well. So You can scroll up and down on the website. I didn't do multiple screenshots, but all the details on the left are kind of the map, the location, the details of the asset, inspections that are done, any task that was associated with it. If this person had a water leak every 3 months, all those tasks will show up right there and stay there as well. Any linked assets, and as well as, again, pictures. And this goes for all of our assets, so our water tanks. I have a picture of the water tank, a picture of the plaques, a picture of any information regarding the tanks. I think they have the tank set up, that goes with that asset or in that cartograph system, so you can pull up at any time. And the same goes for the sewer systems. We take pictures of the panel. I'm trying to think of the term on a pump, the little plate that gives you all the voltage and the plate of all the information tied to that pump. And then we put all the information in the asset itself. But anyway, that's kind of where we're going, the direction we're going, to try to have a good to be able to manage all of our assets. And again, this is an example of a meter, but the same thing with the towers, with the sample stations, with the hydrants, with the valves, with the lift stations and the pumps and so on and so forth, of all the utilities in the parish, but we're starting with the utility department. So,
Mr. Kluwer.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I guess Benny and I are familiar with these. This is Cartograph, but there's other ones out there. This is maintenance CMMS software that you have, and it's a good tool. So it's good to have it all down there. You be able to set up your preventive maintenance, your you do your aging, and you can do a history on your bad actor equipment.
correct.
Stuff like that. So,
Yeah, the first phase is obviously getting our infrastructure in it, then using it to build the database and the history so we can find out costs, put in those maintenance schedules, and start, there's a lot more we can do with it as we build it. This is just the initial implementation, so as we get history and using it, we'll be able to show you, hey, the average time to do locates or water flushing takes this amount of time, and this is how much it's costing us to.
I'm just asking you, when you set it up, on your, naturally you have your priority systems that you can set up in on a work order and,
Right.
and the failure mode, but, that, at some point, if you gotta prove it 5 years down the line, what's the difference between a mechanical repair versus, an environmental issue, something like
Right.
that, so, it works. Thank you.
Councilman Sadler.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Brian. Boy, this looks exciting. Just a few questions. Is the user groups here just, I'm sure it's not so just for workers and engineers in the parish, or is there other folks that are going to have access to this cartograph system?
Well, the one thing I didn't point out that I meant to on one of the earlier slides was, I think that the cartograph OMS, we set the permissions on who and what everybody can see and do, but there is also something called YourGov. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's part of cartograph, and that's intended for the user. So on a phone, for example, and we've been using it now for at least a year, but I don't think it's been has been given out too much. But for example, a pothole, if there's a pothole in the road, you can pull up YourGov app, which is on the Apple as well as the Android devices, which I know I've done, and you can actually locate right where the pothole is, and you put it in, goes in through the parish, and there's one person that kind of divvies up those requests and gives them to the appropriate department. So if there's I think one's a dead animal, and we can dictate what type of requests come in through the public. So, and we're going to add those into, I think we have added already, like a water leak or a hydrant hit. Those kind of things are going to be on YourGov. And the other thing is, part of the request process, whether they call in or if they do YourGov, I believe YourGov, it does it as well. But I didn't really talk too much about the request process, but when someone calls in, and if they give their email address, it tracks the work order and will email them when the work has been complete. So if they call and say, hey, can you let me know when it's going to be done or complete or status or whatever, and they can give their email address if they have email, and it'll send the requester an email of the status whenever it gets scheduled and then whenever it gets completed.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Brian. That was another question I sort of had, and you answered most of it, but the example that you gave in PowerPoint shows in the drop-down menus for, which I guess is the search engine underlying this incredible software. Besides addresses, it will be searchable by residents' names. I think you mentioned email addresses, phone numbers, and the like, and stuff like
Correct.
that.
Correct.
That's going to be powerful. What's the
Yeah.
time frame to have all the data in and actually up and running?
We're building it now. All the asset information, I'll give you updates every month if you like, or every couple months, but,
That's a safe thing to say. I don't know.
yeah.
As soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the sooner we get it in, the easier our job is, and the more efficient it is. So I'm trying to get it in as fast as possible. I would say over the next, a good bit of it should be over the next 6 months, I'll say.
Well,
So
let me
hopefully
say this, if that happens, you will put a grin on this councilman's face that an undertaker can't take off, and appreciate you doing all this.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Joseph.
Yeah, Brian, yeah, this is great because I know you've been working with ACUD 1 in that Modes area. The water line system been there since 1970, and we don't know where half of the meters are at in a yard or somewhere. You know you got a meter, but when you send your work out there, it's hard to locate, and I know this is going to help your workers a whole lot.
Yeah, and I guess I'll go ahead and point out too that for my example on Preston Lane, I said, let's go locate them time, because there's a lot of errors and issues with HUD 1 that I've been trying to work on since I started, and I can go over that on the next agenda, one of the next agenda items. But for Preston Lane example, I said, let's go locate them, tie them into a house, and who's paying the water bill? When we all went out there locating all the meters and who's paying what bill and that kind of thing, and figuring out which house it goes to, people started coming in and paying their deposits. So we added, I think it was 5 new customers on Preston Lane that wasn't paying before, that had been getting water, and not knowing where those assets are and who's getting water from them. And there was no management of those assets when we took it over. So there's a lot of that going on, I think, throughout HUD 1. So as we go forward, I think it'll help out HUD 1 as well.
Councilman Kluwer.
Yeah, what Doc was talking about, I know I've implemented a couple of these systems, is the fact that the general public, it's going to ability for them to have access to it to put a request in, but any of their personal information and the work orders, it'll be a request as it goes in. You guys will change it to the work order and get it in place. And the updates will probably go out exactly to the person that put it in,
Correct.
And
Right.
that.
Right,
so-
and their information is not available for other people to go look and
But
see who
for
would.
us, the day-to-day access to the system, you like anybody else, we've got to pay a rental fee for basically just about everybody, however many people you want access to work in the system.
Yeah, and I maybe
It's
Ken can-
contracted, you contract it with a lot of.
Yeah, and I don't know that the intention was to have full access to the software from everybody. I think that's just for parish and/or council people to access the information through OMS.
And one of the things too that, first off, thank you and your staff for taking on this challenge and getting it there, because I think in the end, we're gonna have a better product. And not telling you anything you don't know. I mean, the more accurate the information you put in it, the better the system's gonna be, right? So take your time, do what you need to do to make sure that the information put in there is correct and as accurate as possible. That'll make your job a lot easier in the long run, once you get that going. Mr. Dawson?
Yeah, just real quick. Also, this helps us with DHH and DEQ reporting requirements. I mean, with the water system, there's a lot of testing. There's a lot of thing that has to go on. And when we have a system like this that's automated and that pinpoints those testing points, and when we go out there and we have a task to do the sampling, it really helps us from a reportability standpoint. So, and as you know, there's a lot of it. With the brain-eating amoeba, it increased our testing how much?
25%.
25% increase in chlorine residual testing that this parish has to perform. That's quite a bit, and that's including weekends, okay, and holidays. So just to let you know, this is going to help us with that reportability, that reporting situation as well.
Very good. All right, moving on to item number 9.
That's me as well.
That's you as well, Brian.
All right. In your package, I have a little bulleted item to kind of talk about a few things I've done since I've started in HUD1 and where we're at currently. Last year, we had a problem even getting a quorum to, as the parish took over HUD1, to even have the HUD1 board meet and have a quorum. Now we finally have 6 of the 7 positions full, and we're meeting and making progress, hopefully. So just wanted to point that out. Electronic meters change out. I know that was one of the big issues. They had, I think, 200 meters that was in a storage thing or in a storage area, and they were never installed. In between trying to keep up with everything else, we've been trying to change those meters out, and I think we're down to below 50. So over this next month, maybe 2 months, hopefully we'll be 100% electronic meter reading, which will make us more efficient on everything else, so we can read meters more efficiently, except for some of the big commercial meters are still manual. So, but it'll make our meter reading a lot more efficient. Storage built up. When we started, we really didn't have a lot of material stored up. We got rid of the storage building that we were paying a monthly fee on. This past December, I was able to get some sea cans and set up a storage area for HUD1 as well as HUD2, and we're starting to build supply. So my budget may go up a little bit, but I need the way we've been handling it since we took it over is we have to borrow from somebody and then order the supply and then give it back to them. You know, we need a certain clamp or a certain pipe, so we've been trying to make do. But in the end, we need our own supply, so when there's a busted line, we can go out there and fix it ourselves without having to depend on anybody. So that's getting set up. Assets in GIS, which I had mentioned in cartograph, we now have all the water lines in GIS. Working on the fire hydrants and the valves for both systems of HUD1. So we've been, when I first started, I didn't even know where our water lines were. We didn't have complete plans or information related to that. Even the plans we have now, a lot of them are incorrect or don't show anything. So we're trying to field verify everything eventually as well. Some of the lines we were drawing in based on plans. So I guess my point is, we've gotten a lot of our lines and assets into GIS, but now we're in the process of verifying everything. Because what we're coming across is an old plan may have showed a 4-inch line, but it's a 2-inch line, or there's supposed to be a line down this road, and we dug across the entire road, and there's no line that goes down that road, and things like that. So we update our GIS layer as we find errors based on the information we had at the time preparing the assets. But it's a lot better than where we were, 6 months ago. So meter reading errors. When we started the first meter reading, we went through probably half of them were not reading right. There was at least 200-300 errors, and everything, it was obvious that the meters were not being read. There were trees over some meters. When we were trying to find the meters, the data was not picking them up in the reader because of wrong meter numbers. I can go on all day about the errors, but that took a lot of man hours to try to figure out and fix all those errors so we can read meters correctly. And now we're to the point of now we pretty much have all the errors taken care of. So it took probably 3 months of, maybe a little more than that, 4 or 5 months of a lot of hours trying to get all that straight. But now we're at a point of now it's the data in the utility software in relation to what's in the field is at least we're billing people. So new customers, as we're going through the meter reading, I think I pointed that out already, there's a lot of illegal connections or no accounts. So I'm projecting we're going to be increasing maybe 15%, maybe more on customers as we go through this process. There's quite a bit out there that are illegally connected that have connected over time, but we're working on processing, trying to make sure everybody has a legal connection. Cartograph, we're implementing Cartograph from a paper system. Now we're using Cartograph, which I've talked about. Transition to official operator. When we first started, we had to get a Curtis Environmental as our certified operator. I got my Class 1 waters and should be getting my Class 2 here shortly, so that we can transition and not have Curtis and to be the certified operator. That way we can handle those tasks. Nitrification.
cost savings, correct?
Yes, it's a cost savings. I think their contracts for $25,000 a year. So we won't have to pay that. We'll just have to pay our testing, which is a separate, the lab testing, which is minimal charge on that. I was have to say that, it may get a little more with the additional testing we have to do, such as the next one we had to do. I completed a nitrification plan, at least a draft of one. It's part of the emergency rule that any system that uses chloramines, which is chlorine and ammonia mixture for disinfection, has to do a nitrification plan to deal with basically bioslime that builds up in the lines. So I drafted one with hopefully minimal additional testing and requirements that we'll have to do. We'll have to wait for DHH to give us comments back to see what we will or will not have to do. Sampling plan update through that process of the emergency rule. We had to update our sampling plan itself. I've updated the actual plan with DHH, but I'm also in the process of creating an actual sampling plan document that spells out who, when, how, all that stuff. Right now, it's all through DHH, but there's no document that really, for someone that comes behind me, or, if I got hit by a truck, how do you do the sampling? So making an actual sampling plan that we can also have DHH blessing on as well. Same thing for the policy manual, the ASUD 1 policy manual that they had or have that we're utilizing at the moment is, a lot of it doesn't apply because we're the parish and it's not a separate entity. There's a lot of human resource policies and stuff and such like that. So I'm in the process of starting from scratch, writing a whole new policy based on our experiences of that we're going through now on how to handle situations, to kind of manage the system. What do we do in these situations? What do we do when someone doesn't pay? And what do we do if someone parks a car over the water meter and those types of things? The other thing we'll be looking into, and with the assistance of engineering, the engineering department, is our we're looking at doing all these expansions, and the way the system works is very interesting to me. We need to have some hydraulic modeling done, so it's going to require us getting some software. Most water systems, as new developments or water line extensions, or proposed, you should put it into the model to make sure you can provide enough pressure, capacity, and flow. So as of this moment, it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of just kind of a guess, an educated guess based on usage, until we can get our hands wrapped around on how the system is functioning. So that's something we're working on. At the beginning of the year or end of the year, there was an administrative order issued. It was for work that was done from 2009 to 2012, which is all prior to the parish taking over. All that stuff was rectified. It had to do with not taking bacteria samples, violations of bacteria samples, not taking chlorine residuals daily, things to that effect that we're doing now. The one thing that is in it that we have to address is they require us to have a backflow prevention ordinance that I'm trying to draft, and I'm going to go send it through the ASUD 1 board and then through this committee as well. But it's basically it's a process and an ordinance that says, when are you going to require a backflow preventer, what type of backflow preventer, the details of it, and how is it processed, which we're doing now. But we're doing it basically, if it's a commercial line, you have to put a backflow preventer. It has to be inspected every year. So the ordinance would just make that requirement. It's basically a state requirement anyway, that the state requirement is vague. It just says, if you're doing more than residential use, industrial, commercial, what have you, we can tailor that, and as long as DHH approves it, we can tailor that and kind of tweak and say, well, some commercials can don't have to put one if you meet these criteria and things to that nature. And then last but not least, the emergency rule, the chlorine residual, we had to do additional samples, 25% more, so our sampling process has taken a lot longer, and the chlorine residual was raised from just a trace to 0.5. We don't have a mechanism to do additional disinfection on the system, though I don't know that we need it or not, but the two parishes we get the water from raise their residual, so it comes into our system at 1.0 and 1 and above. And then through our system, we can keep it at that 0.5 with a flushing, which keeps good fresh water because we don't have a high usage in some areas. And primarily, it's just at the end of our lines where we're having the point right at 0.5 or 0.4, where you're going to see. Well, now I'm working on a more consistent schedule to where we can make sure we stay at that 0.5 total chlorine residual. So, and that's some of the things we're working on or have done for ACD1.
All righty. Mr. Sadler.
Yeah, just a comment, again, wow, thanks, Brian. I owe you one from back when I think several meetings back, I questioned how many engineers and did we need as many, the 14 things that you have on here and the amount of work that you've just described is just amazing. Probably wouldn't do any good to ask the parish president to give you a raise, but he's shaking his head no right now. But you're doing a great job, man, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, I have to make the same comment that the utility district is doing an outstanding job on side. I know Brian had made some phone calls to me on, like he says, some cars over the fire hydrant, over the meters and everything else. And he also seeing how difficult it is in that Modas area that you have a water line running completely across 2 streets to go to one customer sometimes. So I understand why you can't find the water line because it was put in the 1970s. It's in Lemonville, it's in Wichita. So I know how tough your job is just dealing with them because I had to deal with the customers too. So,
Yeah.
but y'all doing an outstanding job. And once again, as it goes to the administration and the whole parish administration and utility district, so.
Appreciate it.
Mr. President.
Doc, I'll thank him like you did. I think he's doing a wonderful job, and we did take this system over when it was under duress, and I think Brian and his staff has done a wonderful job of showing, if you do things the right way, that it can be done. I think few people had faith that we could bring this system back to where it needs to be and bring it back to life, and I think that that's happened here. And like I said, it was in total shambles financially and mechanically. And I think we got that back on track. And hopefully with some new projects here in the future that we're attempting to do, that we can get it on a financial balance where everything stabilizes. So, again, I want to thank the whole department. I think they're doing a good job, and it's good preparation for what's to come on ACUD number 2 as far as the sewer.
Mr. Kluhart.
Yeah. Parish President covered about 90% of what I was going to say, but I just want this as an eye-opener to the public that, just to recap, that, everything that's been talked about and listed today that's what it takes to stay in compliance and have a reliable, healthy water system to the customers. And that's part of the costs of what's generated the monthly fees. It costs that much to maintain, sustain, and future plan for a reliable, healthy water source to the citizens. It's, it's a lot more than a water line and a meter. And for the cars over the meters, just a record call away, brother.
Well,
Well,
nothing's ever easy. Shotgun and pit bulls, it gets more difficult. But seriously, when you think it's simple, I go grab the application on when they, the thing they should sign and say, we have, give you authorization to come on my property, and we don't have those files. Or, I say we don't have those files, we didn't have that one particular file. But every time I do something, it takes more steps to fix it. The Preston Lane, I have our meters now, but now we have people that give their addresses when they do the application. So the system has one address. For some reason, they have a different address posted on the house. Our 911 has a different address, so I have to also clean up all that stuff, so make sure everybody's in line for, I'd hate to have a fire in some of those areas because the address, I have no idea what the I'm sticking with the 911 address on what the official address is. I just need to make sure the owner knows it. Our billing software has the same address and it's posted on the property. So, every step we take, we have to do more to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted for the good of the public, in my opinion, so.
Well, Mr. President, I want to congratulate you on your choice. I don't know what you did to talk him into taking this project over, but I agree with Councilman Sadler. You probably need to pay him a little more. And Brian, just to echo what these guys have said, we've kind of dealt you a hand that's a steep uphill climb for you. Not only with the water and ACUD1 and where we were when we took that system over, but also with sewer. And you've been a real trooper. I mean, you've grasped a hold of those two challenges, and you've manned up with you and your department, and you're handling them. Some of those kind of times, like you said, when you open up that can, it's a can of worms that's getting out all over the place on you, but you're handling it, and we appreciate it greatly. It's doing a good service for the citizens of the parish. And in the end, it's going to make us a whole lot better. And we can't tell you enough how much we appreciate the work you and your staff are doing over there at the Utilities Department. And keep it up. And if there's anything we can do to help you guys out, don't hesitate to call. We want to work with you guys and again, keep that thing going in the right direction.
Well, I definitely thank y'all, and I do appreciate it very much. It makes all the extra hours and effort that myself and my staff put into getting this thing in shape worth it. We can hope someone will recognize and you get raises, but everyone that I work with they do a great job, and no regrets and no complaints. So.
Very good. Mr. Dawson.
Yeah, just real quick, I just want, this committee to understand that as we move forward with Brian is implementing, that moves us into what we're going to do for the $60 million SRF funding when we start to grab customers. Because this allows us to have all the information for billing. Because unless we're not giving one customer away. If we can capture that customer, we're capturing that customer because it belongs to the parish, so that we get some revenue. So all this allows us to move into that particular phase of billing customers to know where they are and make sure we send accurate bills, and we have a relationship with the water company that if they don't pay, there's action to be taken. All of this helps us in doing so. So there is a vision that we're looking at for the future, as well as taking care of the issues we have right now.
Fantastic. All righty, moving on to item number 10, Mr. Bob Horner, update on the GSA contract project for the SRF loan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to give you the executive summary first. We have a contract that has been agreed to by staff, legal, and GSA that we were hoping to have executed today. However, we have some paperwork that has to be done. We have a corporate resolution that they have to get notarized and ready for us per our requirements, and their certificate of insurance. That being said, let me kind of go back and fill in the backstory a little bit on that. Staff has met with GSA. When we started talking, we realized that some of the items that were well out into the construction aspect of the project were a little harder to define and scope out. So what we have done is to adjust and come up with a tasking for each item through the preparation of the design drawings, getting right up to letting the bids for the contracts and moving forward with that and getting our SRF funding taken, application submitted and reviewed and approved. And that at that, we have come in at a $2.4 million fee for that, for those items. We have structured it such that we have a deliverable. We have itemized each one of the aspects of the project, and so that we know exactly what they're to do and what each component is, the effort that that's going to take. And that's all going to be included within the contract documents that I mentioned. As far as one thing that I might mention too is during the course of both our PER and EID as well as the negotiations phase, we realized that we had a P16 area and then a modified P16 area that we might, during the course of what we're doing, adjust a little bit more. So instead of going son of a modified P16 area, we decided to refer to it as a service area number 1. And so if you see things or hear things that refer to service area number 1, it's just our way of saying we're moving into a new phase of what we're trying to do here in Ascension Parish. And so that you'll see that come through. With that, as far as timelines, we started with our EID and PER early, and that has helped put us in front of the curve a little bit. We've received some draft submittal on the PER and have reviewed that with the Hartman, and are looking forward to that kind of jump-starting us into the project with GSA as we get the contract executed and move forward.
Councilman Joseph, you got something?
No, I'm just
Okay.
thank you for the update. At least we know you said a little bit further ahead of the curve, so that's good.
Yeah, Parish President, I want to commend you and your staff on getting those negotiations started and getting this thing underway and getting under contract the next couple of days. We all know about the time frame and the sensitivity of everything that we've got going on. And we also appreciate GSA and that group coming in and working with us in good faith and working to get this project where it needs to be. And we're looking forward to it. Anything else? All righty, moving on to item number 11, update on the cogen project. Mr. Dawson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing real quick. I wanted to let you guys know that we have been talking with DEQ on this timeline, as we promised when we had them here. So they have been working with them. Bob and Brian went over and met with them. They look at our timeline and say that we're looking good. So I just want to let you know they are in that loop, okay? On the cogen update, I mean, I know this is something that we had a memorandum of understanding with Mr. St. Germain, who's with us here tonight, and I want to give you an update on where we're headed with that. The issues, from my understanding, is not with the actual technology and what can be done with the actual technology itself in desalination of water and saline aquifers. Is dealing with something with, I'm sure that those of you who with industry understand that when you're dealing with a power generation, a cogen unit, that there are some issues. So I just felt that we needed an update, and so if Mr. St. Germain is available, we have him to come to the podium and do that for us.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. St. Germain.
Thank you very much for having me. Just to give you a status update, we haven't been wasting our time, so we have at times been spinning our wheels a little bit. We're trying to find a viable way to deal with Entergy and/or with MyCell, the Midwest Internet Service operator. Entergy is not interested in any new generating assets coming into their system. And MISO is still a little bit on the confused side in getting things set up, though they have been live and transmitting power for quite some time now. Their system rates are stabilizing, but I still haven't been able to get a straight answer from them on a standpoint of compensation for energy. The energy rate fluctuates from a low of about 2.5 cents a kilowatt up to about 3.5 cents a kilowatt, maybe 4 cents, and at times during peak periods spikes up much higher. There is a fuel allocation that's supposed to be paid in addition to the energy payment, but I'm having trouble getting a clear answer from the right person within MISO on exactly how much that amount is. What we're trying to do is work out what the total compensation would be for the fuel adjustment, for the energy, as well as a potential capacity payment. Right now, MISO is telling me that the capacity payment is something in the area of 1 cent a kilowatt year, which is very, very low. We're working on trying to make progress on that arena, and we're also researching other alternatives to sell the energy from the facility to other potential utilities in the area and just using the MISO system to transmit it from one point to another. We're still working on refining our numbers. We're still are very adamant that we can do the project. This stumbling block with Entergy was unexpected, and I'm hoping that we can work our way through it in the coming months.
Councilman Clark?
Yeah, Mr. St. Germain, does the Public Service Commission have a model that you fit into, that they could help you with?
They made
Past
some,
case history or anything, you know?
they made some revisions after the Entergy MISO agreement came into place.
Right.
That restructured the calculation for payments for QF or qualified facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only made the waters a little bit murkier instead of clarifying it. It's in essence reduced the amount of compensation on a per kilowatt basis that any new cogen coming into the market would receive, instead of keeping it.
That may have been the
on-
intentions of the legislation.
It may have been, depending who was behind it, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just figured that they had a model that, you know, had been in front of them and with the, you know, the legislation that
Yes, they have the legislation in place, and the way it's structured right now, it is more applicable to an existing industrial facility that has the ability to generate excess power.
or build a cogen, yes.
Well, even if they're not building a cogen, if they have an existing excess steam supply that they use to run through a steam turbine, where they have no additional extra fuel cost, that they could generate extra power and export it to the system. That's more of the way the calculation is set up to compensate it from the standpoint of excess generation, not new generation. One of the things we're looking at is potential impact for combined heat and power type application. And we're trying to address that as well as the QF status. Well, we also may end up going as strictly an independent water and power producer.
So what's your latest timeline?
I am hoping that within the next 3 to 4 months, we'll be able to make some significant progress on knowing where the energy will be sold to and what the rates will be. That's our biggest stumbling block right now, because until we know what we can sell the energy for, that's going to dictate what our water sale price is going to be to the parish. If we calculate our cost right now on the information we have available with just the energy rate that MISO is paying without a fuel adjustment, the water cost would be substantially higher than your costs are right now. And we're not looking to do that. We're
Yeah.
looking to save you money and give you the opportunity to make some money.
So within, just kind of as an update, so once all that's decided, let's say you come to a successful outcome, the prices are where they need to be at for that, what's your next phase?
Once we know realistically what the energy price is going to be, or very close to what it's going to be, either in a energy payment, fuel adjustment, and/or capacity, or a combination of all three. We'll run those numbers. We'll come back with a proposal to the parish on what the water purchase rate will be for the parish, and then we'll look into entering into a long-term water purchase agreement with the parish to meet those terms.
What is the, I guess with the energy sales, are you gonna basically look at signing a long-term contract for those kind of rates, or are you gonna allow that, is it gonna be dictated by the market? How's it gonna?
Well, what we're looking at with the futures in the market price is projected to increase. And normally there's a standard adjustment on an annual basis, a consumer price index type adjustment, which would be similar to what we'd be looking at on the water purchase agreement. But what we're going to do is determine what the base start rate will be, probably deduct a little bit from that to give us a reasonable safe margin, and then calculate what our expected water sale price would be to the parish. And what we want to do is make sure that we've got something that's going to be attractive to you.
So basically what you're looking at is where you're gonna wind up entering the market at, or you're looking for what they're gonna allow you to enter the market at, I guess is the best way of putting it.
Yes. What I'm looking at is the structure to enter the market, whether it's going to be just one flat rate for energy, inclusive of fuel and our capacity, or whether we're going to have a structure where we're going to have a three-tiered rate, where we're going to have a capacity payment, an energy payment, and then an adjustment for fuel, since fuel costs are very volatile.
Okay. Randy, you had something else?
Yeah, you'd mentioned that, you know, one of your scenarios, a business plan, would possibly be looking at just a straight power and water company type of situation. Do you see given your technology, what, you know, and you got those numbers all together, do you see yourself as being able to be used as a peaker?
The problem with a peaking facility is we would not be able to commit to give you X number of gallons per day on a 24-hour day basis, 365 days a year. The primary purpose of each of our projects is to provide water.
You need a
Okay?
steady.
And what I'm looking for is a baseload situation where I can provide the parish X number of gallons per day, whether it's 5 million gallons, 2 million gallons, or 10 million gallons. But I need to have the capability that I can guarantee that I'm going to give you that water, okay? Just as you want to guarantee that you're going to have it
Yeah.
Right.
as a pure, clean, alternative source to your existing supplies.
Parish
Thank you.
President, you had something?
Well, you know, I don't know when in this country that anybody's going to stand up to these energy companies as far as monopolies go. I mean, we having basically the same thing. So I will just tell you that good luck with energy, because we've been dealing for 6 years trying to get a single meter at Lamar-Dixon, which would save us $64,000 a year on our electric bill. We finally, this year, went to and met several times with some public service commissioners, and they said it wouldn't be a problem. So anyway, we got there and we had a final meeting. Yeah, we're going to get this done, and it's going to happen. Well, then I think the last meeting they went to, we can get it done, but they're going to charge us $300,000 for that single meter. So right now we got 10 meters, and they're all at different rates, and they're all high rates. So, you know, it just doesn't make sense. Same thing with we have the same problem, because if we're going to generate with some solar power, okay, we're having the same kind of issue as to trying to sell or do whatever we could to use this excess energy in other ways. So we're dealing with the same situation. So I don't know what the situation is around the rest of the country, but I know here that energy is just holding everybody hostage on these things, and you can't move forward. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
We're going to move forward. Entergy has a reputation nationally as being, if not the worst, one of the worst companies to deal with as far as for building a new project in their territory.
Right.
We will have to deal with Entergy, but the question will be whether or not we sell the power to Entergy or we wheel it through the MISO system.
Well,
to
if you
another
can do that,
contract.
but they're gonna block that or try to block it in some kind of
Well,
shape or
no,
form.
they're gonna charge us $600,000 to do a survey.
Right, so, but anyway, you know, you can't get around them, in any shape or form, and that's why they shouldn't be monopolies in this country. And, I don't know when somebody's gonna have to make the decision, but maybe they just have too strong a lobbyists. I don't know what the situation is. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I do understand what you're dealing with. I had not expected this much resistance when we first talked and we entered into our agreement. I was unfortunately a bit naive then, but we will get there. It may take us a little longer, but we will
We're
get
looking
there.
forward to it. Councilman
I'm hoping
Thuley.
you're still here before we get the agreement signed. I'm hoping we get to that point.
Just real quick, while we're in the utilities meeting, and Parish President did mention Lamar Dixon, is that unfortunately, the people that built and started Lamar Dixon entered into an agreement with Energy based on Energy providing a certain amount of infrastructure inside their gates. And, well, okay, I'm wrong on that point. That they ended up
Energy
with all
owns
those meters.
nothing inside of the gates of Lamar Dixon. They own nothing.
No, not that they own it.
They provide you
That
power.
they supply, they. Right. So anyway, that deal was worked out, and they don't own anything. They don't want to own too much to start off with. That responsibility comes with that. But the fact is that, you know, this has been going on for years with Lamar Dixon. I think back when we had the incubator project, one of the things that Tommy Kurtz had done is put a demand meter on one building just to make sure that the management corporation before the parish owned it was not charging them too much for that one building. And you know, it's a cluster. And it's going to take a lot of politics. And it's got to be on the state level to correct it, if not the federal.
Well, that's one of the locations that we were looking at for the potential project. Another is not too far from there as well. And once we reach an agreement, we could come to some point of discussion as to how we might be able to provide you power for that facility or for other facilities, depending on which direction the parish wants to go, as far as for whether you want to get to the electric utilities or just stay in the water.
The other thing, we talked to a lot of the industrial plants along the river. They would actually be happy to buy water from us, this type of water, because they wouldn't have to treat it in the river, and it's cost them a fortune. They have to test the water, and I mean, we didn't have anybody that would have turned us down. So, you know, it's costing us money also in more ways than one by you being held hostage. So.
We're looking at a substantial potential revenue stream for the parish on both processed water and potable water. I believe, if I remember correctly, the model we're running right now is 70% processed and 30% potable water, where the majority of your revenue stream would come from selling processed water to industry.
Mr. Dawson, you had something?
Yeah, just real quick, I mean, and as Parish President just said, I had a meeting with several companies just last week, and they're still interested in this processed water, if it could be provided, I mean, as well. And the issue with Lamar Dixon, this is a solar project that is a 100% grant, $1.5 million grant. And we're trying to utilize that, okay, to give a better value to the taxpayers of Ascension by utilizing a grant to save money, which is a value to the taxpayers. And to say that we have trouble doing that is just, I don't really get it. Okay, I really don't get it. And I can tell you, Mr. Enlow, along with Michael Terry, and I have met several times, and we have discussed it, and we have been more than willing to work any way we can, and we just kind of keep running up against a brick wall. So somehow we're going to have to figure this out, because it definitely, you know, these are grant dollars and benefit to the taxpayers of Ascension Parish.
Use a helmet. Use a helmet when you run into that brick wall. But, Mr. St. Germain, we thank you for your time and your effort, and as always, we're very interested in this project, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but if there's anything we can do to help out with that, let us know. We're glad to give it a shot and see what we can do.
we'll definitely keep you informed on our progress. Unfortunately, it's been a little slow for the last couple of months, but I'm hoping it'll pick up before long. And if there's any information I can help you with, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Before we adjourn, a couple of things real quick. I know, Past President, you want to mention about the prayer breakfast? I know that's coming up here shortly.
It's not a breakfast, it's a luncheon.
Luncheon, I'm sorry.
It's coming up Thursday at 11:30. Lunch is served at Lamar Dixon at the Trade Mart, and the public is invited. And,
Day after tomorrow.
Non-denominational, and it's it's a 1 hour deal. You go 11:30, and we're out of there for 1 o'clock. So anybody would like to come, certainly appreciate them coming.
Fantastic. Mr. Kluwat, you had something on the.
Yeah, and also this week, coming up Saturday, we've got the Relay for Life out at Lamar Dixon. And just a brief on this, that we've got some of the greatest volunteers involved in that, in the fight against cancer. And it, of course, is a fundraiser, but it's also one of the main things is the awareness of cancer to everyone. And the things that you can do to either restrict or stop the movement. And they've got a lot of good things, a lot of good ways to get involved. So we appreciate anybody coming out. We do a little walking. You don't need to run. All you got to do is walk. And if you walk a lap and you're tired, sit down for 2 laps and then go walk another one. But we got a good group out there. And one last thing, just remind everybody that we're not having a council meeting this week.
Correct.
Thank you.
And as a fellow cancer survivor, we appreciate everything they do. It's a good service and it's a good time. A few times I've been able to make it out there, so if you can, make it out there. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Sadler, second by Councilman Kluwat. We are adjourned.